Okay. We need more 2 persons.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Ktoś jeszcze doszedł? Kto doszedł? Czekamy. Pani kantor. Pani Konstanty, tak? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to hear, not to see you again. Okay. Maria Konstanty and Artur. No. Tomasz Myczka. Absent.
Tomek Myczka is about to join our meeting. He has a problem with connection.
Okay.
Yeah, she did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I excited. Today, I want to discuss some topics concerning my last last lecture. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare for you the particular topics, and but I think you managed to read my notes, and let me start to discuss the problem of factors affecting properties of ceramic materials. Maybe somebody wants to start the description and the discussion on these topics. How do you understand? How do you understand the factors affecting application properties of ceramic materials?
Do you mean that they are brittle?
Sorry, please. Okay.
I mean, they are brittle, right? So.
Artur Polaczek, yes?
Yes.
Yes, you want to start. Okay. Could you please switch on your camera?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just answering the question. I think one of the problematic factors is that ceramic materials are brittle, so they tend to crack.
Okay, and this is very general feature of ceramic materials, but could you please comment simply the slide? I think you and your colleagues see in your monitors. Could you please? How do you understand the scheme? The scheme shown in this slide.
Okay, so for example, microstructure depends on ceramic process that was applied. Also, the individual features depend on phase composition. And it's not really clear to me.
Not clear.
To be honest.
Okay, who wants to comment? Add some more to Mr. Artur, yes? Artur, right? Okay, yes. You are right in many many things. Okay, chemical and phase composition. What does it mean for you? Chemical and phase composition.
It's what the materials are made out of. What's the structure of them? What phases are in there, and what kinds of atoms are making the material?
Mr. Patrick, could you, maybe you know, what is the phase composition of porcelain materials? Porcelain. China.
There is some amorphic structure and other parts that are crystalline.
Crystalline, yes.
But I don't know exactly. I know that it's just a mix of those.
Okay, but what is the starting point for porcelain materials? Do you know the what are the raw materials used to produce China to produce porcelain materials or porcelain-based materials?
Do you mean like clays?
Yes.
So alumina silicates, right?
Yes. Yes. Alumina silicates are clays. One component. This is the one raw material used for. Another one is silica simply.
So
quartz.
Like sand?
Yes, like sand, quartz sand. And another one, the third one. The third one is a feldspar, yes? Feldspar.
Sorry?
Feldspar.
Oh.
Scalene.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know. Okay, and chemical composition. I selected very complicated example. The example of the raw materials and the final material, in which the starting powders differ from the final material in chemical and phase composition. And you said that the application properties, like for example, what is the good example for porcelain? Maybe in English,
Teapots.
Water absorption, for example. Yes, water absorption. How do you think? What are the factors that will affect and will control the water absorption of porcelain? Produced from the indicated by you raw materials.
So like porosity?
Generally speaking, of course.
Porosity?
Yes, that's right. Open porosity,
Yeah.
yes. Open porosity.
The surface composition and the amount of water that is able to disperse inside the material.
Yes, to be absorbed, yes. To be absorbed in the material. Open porosity is very important from this point of view. And taking into consideration the scheme which is shown in the slide, which shows that chemical phase composition controls, for example, water absorption. In the case of porcelain, water absorption depends on porosity. How to control this parameter, this feature of the material? Maybe too complicated example for you.
So the structure and microstructure by the process we are applying to make the material.
Okay.
Like the forming process.
Forming process, for example, yes. But from the point of view of chemical and phase composition, is there an indication what is the starting composition for obtaining porcelain material with low water absorption? What raw materials we must use, in your opinion, and what amount, what concentration of each raw material will be used to obtain the material with the lowest water absorption? It's a very complicated example, yes, because we must know what happens with raw materials during heat treatment. Yes, we start from clays, the mixture of clays, silica sand, and feldspar. What happens with clays during heat treatment? Who knows? What process?
They undergo phase changes.
Yes, that's right. Phase changes. You are right, but what type of change appears with respect to
Is it
clays?
with liquid phase?
Okay. Is there clay minerals a source of liquid phase? In this case, in this material, is this really true?
Maybe quartz.
Maybe quartz. Okay, you have. Okay, what about clays first? Clays, kaolinite, as a main component of clays, for example. It melts. Is it? It melts during heat treatment, or undergoes other processes. You don't know. I must do. Okay, I must. Okay, I do not hear you. Okay. Yes, it's better. Yes, that's right. Feldspar creates liquid phase, and clays like kaolinite decomposes only. It not produces originally and directly liquid phase, only with reaction with the feldspar. You understand? Yes. And what about quartz? Quartz is stable rather. It can be dissolved in the feldspar after its melting. Okay. And from the point of view of water absorption of the final material, what is your suggestion? Which component must be optimized? Let me say the amount of this component should be of the appropriate level. Feldspar gives liquid phase. Clay decomposes, and silica sand only can be dissolved in some amount with liquid phase. And your suggestion is from the point of view of water absorption of the final material. In the phase composition, which component must be optimized, taken in the appropriate amount? What is your suggestion?
Liquid phase.
Sorry?
Liquid phase.
As a liquid phase, the source of liquid phase is what component? What?
First, the one
Yes,
should
feldspar.
be optimal.
Feldspar must be optimized, yes. Chemical and phase composition. Chemical and phase composition. Feldspar must be optimized. Because it gives the individual feature, like it can melt. And from this point of view, it gives possibility to minimize the content of open pores. And what about the ceramic process? What parameters will control the water absorption? What parameters of the ceramic process of the technology will control the open porosity of final microstructure? How do you think?
Temperature and time of the heat treatment, and maybe the atmosphere in which the treatment is made.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Okay, now Mr. Artur Polacek, is this clear for you or not, this scheme? Chemical and phase composition as a starting point.
Yes, it is.
Yes, we start from the selected chemical and phase composition. We must select phase composition, which gives individual features we need. Individual features are required for final application properties. Do you see the cursor of my mouse?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and to obtain final application properties, we need apply microstructure, product microstructure. Okay, and okay, I think it's better to. Okay. Miss Eva Kozub, could you please tell us what are the main characteristics of the microstructure? Very generally, what we see in the microstructure, what you can see in the image showing the transparent alumina microstructure. What are the features of this microstructure we can see?
We can see the profiles of the grains, which are pretty big.
Yes. We see.
And
in this picture, you see, sorry, in this picture, you see true grains, or maybe not?
Not, because this is not the actual size of them. The picture gives us information about the cross sections. I don't know if it means przekrój.
Yes, cross sections. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay.
What you can see else?
And there is a very low porosity.
Yes, you can see pores.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the pores are the same type
Mm,
we see in this image.
I believe not, because one of them are inside the grains and the other ones are in the boundaries of the grains.
Yes. Okay. What else interesting can be seen and is seen in this picture?
That there is not a vitreous phase here.
Sorry?
That the vitreous phase is absent
There is
here.
no space. Yes, okay. What suggests this conclusion that there is no liquid or vitreous phase? Because you are right.
I don't know actually.
Okay. First indications comes from should be chemical composition. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is the chemical composition of the material shown in this SEM image?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay, what is the chemical composition of the material? The chemical composition.
The phase of alumina, and with the addition of magnesium titanium.
Magnesium oxide, yes.
And that's it.
Okay, chemical composition shows us alumina and magnesium oxide. What amount of aluminum oxide, is indicated in the description of this image?
And the bigger amount.
Is there any information in this number?
Yes. Almost 100%.
Okay, why not? Why almost, but not exactly 100? Is there any explanation of this information? We need 0.1%. What does it mean, 0.1%? But in the right figure, we have 1%, and we have liquid phase, vitreous phase content, with low vitreous phase content material is shown here. Okay. Okay, the suggestion, of course, is that the balance to 100% should be treated as contamination of the powder, contamination which delivers to the system vitreous phase, and the contamination is very low in this case. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I want somebody compare. Okay, maybe Miss Eva, could you explain us why this material of this microstructure shown here, why this material is transparent, in your opinion? Why this material shows us transparency? Transparency means that wavelength in the light range can pass the material, yes? Can go through the material.
Because of the irregular shape of the grains?
Not exactly. What are the microstructure, let me say, barriers for the light movement through the material? Yes, of course. Try. Yes. Okay, could you explain us, and maybe could you indicate the features of the microstructure which are responsible for light scattering? Light scattering. Each grain is a single crystal, yes, single crystal, and as you know, single crystal will not sputter light. But we have polycrystalline material, and what feature of this material are responsible for light sputtering? Yes, yes, of course, but yes, yes, right. Right microstructure is shows the material which is not transparent. Yes, it contains vitreous phase, but vitreous phase like silicon silica-based glasses, silica-based glasses like glass in the window in windows. Glass not scatters the light in the visible range. But you say that there is no but the right in the right this microstructure glass is present and the material is not transparent. But the left one, there is no glass and it's transparent. Just okay, and I want you indicate such defects, which are very important for light scattering. Defects of material. Is is a grain, or is the grain a defect for light movement and light scattering? Okay, a grain is a defect of microstructure which is responsible for light scattering? You say no. Like what? Sorry? Aha, like other phases, secondary phases, yes? Yes. Which one is the most important? Which phase is the most important from the point of view of light scattering in the polycrystalline materials? Maybe you know.
Can I add something?
Yes. Who wants to add something?
I wanted to ask if
Board between grains.
Sorry, repeat please.
are the grain
The board
boundaries
between
defects?
grains.
Okay, Mr. Polacek, please first, and then Mr. Tomasz Myczka. First, Mr. Polacek.
Yes, you asked if the grains are defects, and I'm asking if grain boundaries are defects.
Yes, that's right. Grain boundaries.
Yes, on the right picture, there's much more many grain boundaries, and on the left one, there is much less.
Yes,
grain
that's right.
boundaries.
But the type of grain boundaries is also important or not for the light scattering?
Perhaps yes.
Yes, that's right. What feature?
The optical density.
Wow, good. But you can see thin and thick grain boundaries. Is it important from the point of view of light scattering? Thin in this case, and thick in this case. Of course, this is important. What about the size of grains? Is it important for from the point of view of transparency? Grain size. Somebody said, I think Mr. Polacek said that that the amount of grain boundaries is important. Yes. Large grains, smaller grain boundaries amount in the material. Okay. The size. The
grains are in the size of the wavelength of the light passing through them, they will absorb it, I think, or it's the other way around.
Yes, and what about the distance between pores and the size of pores? Is the same, you said. Yes, Mr. Patrick. Yes, the comparison with the wavelength size and wavelength value. It's important. Each microstructural features. Okay. Large grains, small amount of pores, small pores, small porosity, and clear grain boundaries, pure grain boundaries with no additives. Only magnesium oxide can be detected in the grain boundaries. Coarse grain microstructure and some transparency is obtained. In the right case, smaller grains, very thick grain boundaries, and glassy phase, composed of glassy phase. Let me say, hinders transparency of this material. Okay, and everything comes from what? First thing, is it possible to obtain this material? Is it possible to obtain this material in showing the microstructure like the microstructure shown by the left material? Is it possible or not? How do you think? Can I obtain, in the case of this material, the microstructure shown by the left microstructure?
If I recall properly, not without addition of magnesium oxide.
Okay, you suggest that magnesium oxide can change the situation, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is this idea. Okay.
Wouldn't the vitreous phase content interfere with being able to get the structure on the left?
Good question, and my answer is yes. Of course. The point is that the content of impurities. It is not possible to obtain the material like this one, using the powders of this composition. This composition means 99% of alumina and the 1% of components that give us low vitreous phase content. Yes, low vitreous phase content. Maybe you remember I said you or I indicated the components which are responsible for the appearance of vitreous phase in this microstructure. Who remember? Okay, alumina powders obtained in the Bayer process means that sodium oxide and silica are impurities, main impurities, and they are responsible for the formation of vitreous phase in this material. 1%, and vitreous phase is present. 0.1% vitreous phase is not present. You see, these examples illustrated this relationship, chemical and phase composition. Chemical and phase composition controls first individual features and application properties as a result. But what about a ceramic process? In this case, it is not possible to control microstructure by using technological parameters to obtain the same microstructures. Is rather not impossible. I think chemical composition in this case is the main factor which controls the final microstructure and the final application properties of the materials. Okay, okay, but of course, if we think about this microstructure, which technological parameters were, let me say, positive for obtaining such a microstructure? High temperature of sintering and atmosphere. Yes, that's right. Okay, atmosphere. Why not air is used, but hydrogen-rich atmosphere? Mr. Marcelli, could you explain? Oxygen and nitrogen. Okay, but I think that the chemical reaction is more probable in the case of hydrogen, because in this atmosphere you see aluminum oxide, oxygen ions from the atmosphere, in the material, of the material, oxygen ions of the material can go to the atmosphere, which is free of oxygen. Yes, the oxidation can be can appear during this process if the high temperature treatment in this atmosphere, hydrogen, will be too long. But other feature of hydrogen or oxygen or nitrogen is responsible for the usage of hydrogen in this case. Other feature of gases, especially of molecules of gases, is very important.
The dimension of the compound?
Yes, the molecule dimension, the molecule size. Thank you, Mr. Patrick Zions. Yes, that's right. Okay. The small size of hydrogen molecules allows the material, allows the diffusion through the material when the atmosphere is trapped within closed pores. Yes, you understand that during high temperature treatment, open pores which are present, which appear in green bodies, decrease in size. Open pores decrease in size, and in some stage of sintering, they become closed pores. And after closing the gas, the atmosphere in closed pores, molecules, if cannot diffuse through the structure of materials, cannot be removed from the material. Hydrogen, very small molecules, and they can diffuse through the structure, grain boundaries, and go outside the material. This is the explanation. Okay, thank you for this process. Okay, this picture shows another microstructures, and what is interesting, grain boundaries. We can see in the microstructure elongated grains. Maybe somebody will explain the mechanism which is responsible for appearing in the system, and this microstructure, alumina material, elongated grains. What idea can suggest, for example, Ms. Susanna Cantor? Susanna?
Here?
Yes. Do you have any idea to explain the presence, the appearance in the microstructure of elongated grains?
Well, it looks like an abnormal grain growth.
It's not an abnormal grain growth. I'm sorry, I cannot agree with you. Because abnormal grain growth means that in the microstructure we have the population of very, very large grains and smaller grains. But in
Isn't
this
that
case,
the case here?
sorry?
Isn't that the case here?
Oh,
We can see very large grains and we can also see very small ones.
use about this one. But you must remember that we see in this case, okay, I can show you very quickly. What does it mean exaggerated grain growth and abnormal grain growth? Okay, please wait a while and I will find sorry. My future lecture. Okay, so maybe here. Why? Okay, centering. Okay, one minute. And exaggerated grain growth will be shown for you. Exaggerated grain growth. Okay. First, I must close this one. Okay. Close here. And open another one. Okay. This picture shows you the examples of exaggerated grain growth. Yes. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like this one. This example. Okay. I'm sorry. This image comes from the handbook, in which you can see the cross section of very large grain, abnormal grain grow in magnesium oxide ceramics, very large, and you can see very small grains. Yes, in the case of, for example, this microstructure. This is the microstructure of tetragonal zirconia polycrystals. Zirconia tavent alumina. Alumina grains, very elongated grains, and you see abnormal grain grow here. Very large grains, large grains, and elongated ones. They trapped inside the much smaller grains of zirconia phase, light grains, light inclusions must be ascribed to zirconia. Abnormal grain grow, very large grain and smaller ones, like this one, to population of pores. And in the case of, let me come to our picture under the discussion. Okay. In this case, we cannot such features. This grain, is not an example of the exaggerated grain growth, in my opinion. Okay, Could you continue continue the answer the question why elongated grains appeared in this microstructure?
Well, if it's not the abnormal growth, I would say it might be because of the
is it typical
the production conditions?
Reduction conditions?
Production conditions?
Reduction, you said?
I said production.
Okay. Maybe you remember from the material science course, maybe you remember what is the mechanism of crystal growth, especially in the case of alumina. Alumina structure is not cubic, is not regular. Hexagonal structure is shown by aluminum oxide, alpha alumina.
Well, the growth depends on the initial phase and on the strength of the driving force, and it is privileged in some directions.
What about faces of crystals? Faces of crystal, of a crystal. The faces, each face grows with the same rate?
No, it is privileged in some directions.
Crystallographic direction, yes. And the energy? And
well, it depends on the surface energy of the...
okay. And this is one reason, the structural reason for growing elongated grains in the case of alumina. The first one.
Okay.
Okay. And there is another one which is shown by this microstructure. Not only the structure of alumina, of alpha alumina, not only structure, but also the presence of liquid phase.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Liquid phase is what? Is the mass transportation faster through the solid phase or liquid phase?
Liquid phase.
Yes, liquid phase faster. Yes, this allows to grow faster, also elongated grains. Good. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Miss Zuzanna Kantor, yes?
Yep, that was me.
Thank you very much. Okay, I must know you. Okay. And other problem. Thank you for the discussion. Okay. Maybe somebody would answer the question why we have in this table, why we have, for example, bending strands, hardness, or density, Young's modulus values, why those values are different for different alumina materials. Very generally, for example, density first. Why is different? What are the reasons for this situation?
Because of the pores.
Because of the pores. Who said because of the pores?
Me, Polaczek.
Mr. Artur Polaczek again. Okay, Artur. You are right. What think Miss Sylvia Manteris about this problem? Sylvia Manteris.
I'm actually agree with Artur. The main reason is porosity. Other reason could be other phases in the material, which can affect the process of formation crystals.
Okay. Okay. The presence of secondary phases.
Yes.
Secondary phases, you said. Yes, and what property is affected in the, let me say, large extent, strongly?
Can you repeat, please?
Okay, I want to know the presence of the secondary phase affects of course generally application properties, but which one is affected in the most strong manner, let me say? We have density, hardness, K1C, Young's modulus, the same in the same level.
I think that it could be sintering temperature, because secondary phase can change this a lot. For example, in high temperature materials.
Okay, sintering temperature, you said. Okay. Yes, please try. You said compressive strengths? No. Bending strengths, yes. Yes. Okay. And okay, and you suggest that because the answer is your colleagues indicated two factors that control the changes in the properties shown for the materials, for aluminum materials in this table. Yes. Porosity.
Can you repeat the question?
And the secondary phases. I understand porosity separately. Secondary phases, because secondary phase, the porosity is out of the secondary phase, but I mean secondary phase like solid phase. Yes, solid phase. Porosity separately, other solid phases separately. Yes, and you said that the presence of secondary solid phase mainly controls the bending strength. Yes? Yes. Okay. But from the point of view of mechanism, which is responsible for bending strength of materials, mechanism, the mechanism is based on the presence of microstructure, microstructure defects, microstructure flows, defects in the macro scale, like pores, like cracks, some micro cracks. What else? And secondary solid phase is of course the let me say type of a defect of microstructure. But if we consider the microstructure like the microstructure which should be composed of one phase, but when other phases are obtained, sometimes like in composite materials, the other phases give positive impact, positive contribution to mechanical properties. Okay, summarizing. Bending strength can be, what type of secondary phases are present in alumina materials shown in this table? We must tell precisely. Secondary phases. Porosity is one. Porosity is one, and the secondary phases. We discussed the presence of the appearance of secondary phases earlier. Vitreous phase, yes? Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, secondary phase. Okay, the content of secondary phase depend on the chemical composition of the starting material, or starting powder, sorry, yes? And this is shown in this row of the table. And bending strands, porosity, okay. Porosity controls bending strengths in this range for each material. But between materials, among those materials, porosity is not the main factor. Which one is the main one? The secondary phase, yes? And you said secondary phase, yes?
Yes. Yes, I said that.
Sylvia Manteris said secondary phase, and that is true. Between materials, the presence of vitreous phase is the main reason. But in the range of each material, in the range shown of properties, on each property for each material, this range depends on the porosity, not only on chemical composition. Good. The same is in the case of density. Yes, this range is controlled by the obtained porosity, but the difference between this material and this material comes from the presence of secondary vitreous phase. We must understand the differences in this way, in this table. Okay, thank you very much, Miss Sylvia Manteris. Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes,
Yes, Sylvia Manteris.
Okay. Some problems of the influence of the technology on the microstructure, and then application properties were shown in this slide. Okay. Okay. The question is, why we use the powders in this form, and what the form, or how the form shown in this picture is called? Who wants? Marcin Tomaszkiewicz, Mr. Marcin Tomaszkiewicz.
Marcin Tomkiewicz.
Oh, sorry, Tomkiewicz.
Yes, we use spherical powders because sphere is the most has the least surface to the area, the volume of a body, and thus it's because of the low area makes that during the sintering it's in the preparation processes, we could make the most dense, for example, after pressing the parts before sintering would be the most dense, and thus the loss of volume during sintering would be the lowest.
This type of powder, this type of particle is called as, could you remember us?
I'm sorry, could you repeat, because I
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I can repeat because the slide shows you two types of powders. This one is composed of particles of very small and large assemblages, and the size is can be calculated from the size of scale bar. This type of powder and this one. Why there's such big difference? Because those two powders, irregular in shape assemblages, particles, and very regular in shape particles. Spherical in this case, in the case of the right image.
Well, it depends on what type of thing are we manufacturing, and smaller particles have more area and irregular shapes. So also does have more area. This means that it will, for example, the sintering process will be faster.
Okay, could you, in your opinion, the particle shown here in this image, this particle is very dense, and this is the one phase not porous single crystal particle. This one is a single crystal particle, in your opinion?
It can be, yes.
The answer is yes. Very ideal sphere can be obtained from a single crystal. Okay. Is your opinion shared by other colleagues?
And the spherical grains could be obtained by spray drying, so it's small chance that it's monocrystal.
Okay. You said by spray drying. Yes, that's right. And this this spray dried particles, spray dried powder is called as, the process of spray drying is called, with respect to the powder, as the process of what? Of granulation. This is a granule. Okay, and as a granule, the particle is not a single crystal. It's a polycrystalline material. The particle is composed of the particles like shown in the left a left image. Okay, during spray drying. Why? Okay, during spray drying, and okay, Marcin Tomkiewicz, Mr. Marcin Tomkiewicz, could you do you have an idea to tell us, to explain the difference between this microstructure of a green body and this one?
So the body on the right
This
side,
one, yes.
Yes, has big grains, more regular, and the one on the left side have I don't really even see each separate it's separate grains, so it has to be there has to be very small.
Okay, it is possible that those two or both pictures can be obtained from the same type of the original powder.
Yes, it can be, but then it had to be very different manufacturing process.
Very different, you say? Is it possible to change this microstructure in the very simple way to this one? Maybe somebody has an idea. Because Marcin said that it is possible, but we must apply very complicated and very sophisticated technology.
Well, not maybe not really the more sophisticated, but like for example, the time of sintering to get much smaller grains would be much
Marcin,
slower.
I must remember you. That we talk about green bodies, not sintered.
Oh.
These are green bodies, not sintered. Before sintering, the microstructure of compacts before sintering.
I'm sorry, isn't this case like the one before? I mean, we have different phase, so we can't make this on the right side like this one on the left side, because it's different phases basically, so we can't do it the same way.
You say about different phases?
Maybe different oxides, I mean.
Different oxides, you say. Okay, good.
Like when we have almost 100% of alumina and an addition of magnesium oxide.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I want you indicate me. In this pressing characteristics. Please take into consideration, for example, this curve. And could you please, I will select for you two pressing points, 10 to 1 in PSIs, 10 to 1, and 10 to 4. 10 to 4. And Miss Agnieszka, yes? Could you please attribute to each point of pressure the images of green bodies shown earlier, left and right? Here we have left or right.
Wait a second. To be honest,
you know the mechanisms which are responsible for increasing relative density, with pressure, shown by this curve. Could you
okay.
explain us?
I would say that 10 to 4 is our left image.
Left, yes, and
10 to 1 is our right image.
good. Explain me and your colleagues why you think that this is the right answer.
Pressure on the left in the left image.
Yes.
We've got a bigger pressure tag because
Yes.
I said that 10 to 4, and our density increased. So our structure seems more dense. I don't know how to tell that. Oh.
Okay, you are right, but yes, it was Agnieszka Majecka. Agnieszka Majecka, very large plus for you. Agnieszka Majecka, sorry, Majecka. Okay, who wants to add something to this problem? Nobody? Miss Agnieszka, okay, I must, okay, sorry, I must come back here. Okay, could you please name this particle in the microstructure of a green body?
I think this is a grain or a
grain.
pore.
You said grain.
Pore?
Sorry. Repeat, please.
I don't know.
Oh,
Grain.
Maybe
Grain
somebody knows. Here we have granules. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Granule. This is the granule after powder granulation by using a spray dryer. Yes. Let me say starting powder. This is the starting powder. Granulation has been used to improve, let me say, flowability of a powder, because this powder is not good for obtaining good green bodies with good microstructure, uniform, and with small porosity. Granulation, granulated powder, and this granulated powder, like this one, was introduced to a mold and then pressed. And after pressing, we obtained two microstructures. This one contains deformed and broken granules, but we can see each granule separately. Yes, each granule can be seen, but in this one we cannot see granules. Only the particles, the primary particles are visible. The primary particles are visible, like very small points. And the answer, the question is, and Ms. Agnieszka answered the question very good. That the right microstructure has been pressed and obtained under low pressures, and the left under higher pressure. Under higher pressure. And why the microstructure was composed and looks like shown in the images. In the right, we have remnants of granules because the pressure was too low to damage granules. At higher pressures, granules were damaged, and the microstructure is very uniform. This breaking point is a measure of what, Agnieszka?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
The pressure which corresponds to the breaking point in this curve is called as, or can be attributed as, the strength of agglomerate. The strength of agglomerate. Agnieszka, the strength of agglomerate.
Sorry.
Okay, and the last question. We have only a few minutes. Okay, I think that Miss Claudia Łuszczak explain us what are the factors controlling the strength of agglomerate. Claudia? Miss Claudia?
Can you hear me now?
Sorry?
Can you hear me now? Because
Yes,
I
I
had
hear
problem with
you.
my microphone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that you in this on this slide right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
strength.
Okay. So the surface energy.
Surface energy. Which one? This is the surface energy. Yes.
Yeah.
What else? This one. This factor corresponds to
defects.
what feature of defect? Of a defect. Shape?
Could you repeat?
You mean shape of the defect, size of a defect? See. Of course, the size. Of course, the size. The size. Of course, the size of defect. D corresponds to the diameter, the size of particles, of a particle which forms the agglomerate.
Yes.
Gamma C corresponds to
Density.
Gamma corresponds to, I'm sorry, to the, to the fracture energy. And phi corresponds to
agglomerate density.
Good. And in your opinion, which factor is the most strong?
You mean the
to control the strengths.
Okay, so I think that defects or maybe surface energy.
Defects, I agree. Defect size and I think density in the power 4, and I think also fracture energy, but density and the size is the most important. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Claudia Wiszczar. And thank you everybody for attending this seminar. And what, do you have any problems, any questions for me? Okay, if not, thank you very much once again, and see you in my next seminar in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Goodbye.
Bye.